Many people assume the greatest crisis facing military veterans is a lack of housing, employment, or health care. But what if those hardships are actually symptoms of a much deeper problem? James Howard Sullivan, in his profound work, The Veteran Village, A Philosophy of Reintegration, argues that the most significant challenge for many veterans is the loss of purpose. Martin, how does Sullivan unpack this idea, moving beyond simply providing services to understanding the veteran's deeper needs?
Joe, Sullivan's core conviction is that society has an obligation to veterans that goes beyond mere gratitude or benefits. It's about creating a place where they can live lives of meaning and continued service. He states that the deepest crisis isn't about material needs, as real as they are, but about the profound loss of purpose that often follows military service. He says, quote, "When purpose is restored, the individual often discovers renewed strength to rebuild every other area of life." End quote.
That's a powerful reframing. So, it's not just about what a veteran lacks externally, but what they feel internally. How does military service itself contribute to this initial sense of purpose, and what happens when that structure disappears?
Precisely. Military service instills mission, discipline, shared hardship, and accountability. It binds individuals to something greater than themselves. But upon returning to civilian life, those structures vanish. Sullivan describes this transition as not just occupational, but philosophical. The challenge isn't just finding a job, it's finding a new vocation that demands the same commitment they once gave to the military.
So, the veteran village philosophy isn't about quick fixes then. It's about a fundamental shift in how we approach reintegration.
Exactly. The book's philosophy begins with the belief that reintegration is fundamentally the restoration of purpose. It seeks to cultivate communities where meaningful work, stewardship, leadership, disciplined living, and mutual accountability become the ordinary rhythm of daily life. Sullivan makes it clear, housing isn't the mission, employment isn't the mission, programs aren't the mission. He asserts, quote, "The veteran is the mission," end quote. This philosophy is meant to endure beyond any single campus or organization.
That's a stark contrast to how many public discussions frame the issue. When Sullivan talks about the crisis of purpose in the first chapter, he really dives into this idea that material problems are symptoms. What does he draw on to support that?
He draws on powerful insights. Sullivan argues that common focuses like homelessness, addiction, or PTSD are visible manifestations of a deeper problem. He cites psychiatrist Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, emphasizing that the fundamental human drive is the search for meaning. Frankl observed that those with a compelling reason to live could endure extraordinary hardship. For Sullivan, military service naturally provides this purpose, with its clear mission and shared responsibility.
And when that military structure is gone, the clarity diminishes even if freedom increases. It's an interesting paradox. He mentions ancient philosophers too, right?
He does. He brings in Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. Epictetus taught that human freedom comes from attending to duty, not comfort. Marcus Aurelius believed each day offered a chance to perform work proper to a human being. Both recognized purpose is inseparable from responsibility. Sullivan connects this to the Christian tradition, referencing Colossians 3:23-24 about working heartily as to the Lord, and the rule of St. Benedict for disciplined work and mutual accountability.
So it's about forming character through work and responsibility. And the veteran village embraces this by rejecting the idea of long-term dependence.
Absolutely. Sullivan states, quote, "Every resident is viewed not as a client to be maintained, but as a citizen to be equipped, challenged, and entrusted with meaningful responsibility." End quote. He believes compassion is best when it restores capability, not just manages need. Veterans possess leadership, adaptability, and wisdom, which are national assets. When these qualities are unused, it's not just a veteran issue, it's a civic issue.
That leads right into his second chapter, the Veteran Village Philosophy, which posits that philosophy shapes institutions before anything else. How does he elaborate on this idea that reintegration is about discovering who veterans are now called to become?
He frames it as evolving, not regressing. The central conviction is the inherent dignity and worth of every veteran and their ongoing responsibility to contribute. Sullivan again references Frankl for the essential human need for meaning, and Aristotle's Nicomachean ethics for human flourishing, or eudaimonia, achieved through the habitual practice of virtue. This means character is formed through repeated acts, making excellence a habit. Reintegration, then, should cultivate virtue and competence, not just alleviate hardship.
So, the military instills these habits, and the village aims to redirect them into civilian life. What about the balance between compassion and accountability, which can often feel like opposing forces?
Sullivan addresses this directly. He states, quote, "The village therefore rejects the false choice between compassion and accountability. Compassion without expectation risks creating dependency, while accountability without compassion becomes harshness." End quote. Genuine restoration needs both. Each veteran is seen as a citizen to be equipped, challenged, trusted, and given opportunities to lead and serve. Housing provides stability, but meaningful work, education, mentorship, stewardship, and community all contribute to an environment where purpose is rediscovered through daily practice.
It sounds like a practical, almost monastic approach, which makes sense given the references to Benedict. This brings us to the duty station in Chapter 3, which Sullivan calls the organizing principle. Can you explain that concept?
The duty station is the daily expression of purpose. Every resident, regardless of age or ability, is given a responsibility that contributes to the community. Sullivan says it's not punishment or busy work, but a practical expression that every veteran is still needed. He emphasizes that each morning begins not with "what services will I receive today," but with "how will I contribute today." This shifts identity from recipient to steward.
That's a profound shift in mindset. It challenges the common narrative of veterans as passive recipients of care.
Indeed. He draws a parallel to military service, where every role, from sentry to cook, holds dignity because it contributes to the mission. The duty station carries this into civilian life. He also references Aristotle again, linking repeated action to character formation. Reliability, craftsmanship, humility, and leadership are practiced daily. Benedict's rule also informs this, where every task serves the whole community and holds dignity.
And Tocqueville and Burke's ideas of active citizenship and shared obligations are also woven into this.
Yes, they reinforce the idea that free societies are strengthened when citizens participate in institutions larger than themselves. The duty station restores veterans to active citizenship through service. It's a declaration of continuing value, cultivating ownership and confidence, leading to the restoration of useful citizenship.
Speaking of useful citizenship, Chapter 4 elaborates on this. It's more than legal status, it's active participation and a sense of belonging. How does the veteran village help restore this useful citizenship?
Sullivan argues that many veterans haven't lost their citizenship, but their sense of belonging within it. Frankl's idea of meaning emerging when life expects something is key here. Useful citizenship reminds veterans their judgment, experience, and leadership are still needed. Aristotle's concept of humans as political creatures thriving in communities ordered toward the common good means personal and community restoration are linked. The village becomes a voluntary association where service is practiced daily and leadership is measured by strengthening others.
And it touches on stewardship, which Burke emphasized.
That's right. Military service teaches stewardship, not ownership. The village extends this, encouraging residents to be faithful stewards of people, property, and traditions. He also brings in Ephesians 2:10 from the Christian scriptures, linking faith with responsibility towards one's neighbor, making useful citizenship an expression of vocation. Success, for Sullivan, is when a veteran becomes the person others seek for counsel, dependability, and leadership, strengthening their families, neighborhoods, and institutions.
This leads directly to work as formation in Chapter 5, where work is more than just a paycheck. It's a fundamental tool for character development.
Absolutely. Sullivan challenges the modern view of work as just income. He says, quote, "Meaningful work is not merely economic activity. It is one of the primary instruments through which character is formed, competence is developed, and purpose is renewed." End quote. He references Frankl again, noting that meaning is often found in creating worthwhile work. For veterans, purposeful labor shows their abilities still serve something larger than themselves.
It's about making a contribution, not just earning a living. And Aristotle's influence on virtue is evident here too.
Indeed. Aristotle's idea that virtue is acquired through repeated practice means the various workshops of the village, from the garden to the office, become classrooms of virtue. Sullivan notes that Scripture, from Genesis to Colossians, presents work as a noble calling and a reflection of character. Benedict's rule also reinforces this, stating all tasks have dignity, contributing to the community's health. The duty station finds its fullest expression through this meaningful work, restoring confidence and developing leadership.
This ties into leadership by example in Chapter 6. Sullivan says leadership is often misunderstood as authority, but for the village, it starts with personal example. What does that look like in practice?
It means before anyone directs others, they must demonstrate discipline, integrity, humility, and reliability themselves. Military organizations understand that confidence in leadership is built through shared hardship, not privilege. Character earns trust. Sullivan references Marcus Aurelius, who continually examined his own conduct, reminding us that leadership begins with self-government. Epictetus argued philosophy is shown by disciplined living, not just eloquent speech. Daily faithfulness builds credibility.
So, it's not about rank or title, but about actions. He even references Jesus' act of washing his disciples' feet.
Yes, quote, "The highest form of leadership willingly accepts the lowest place when service requires it." End quote. He also draws from Benedict, who instructed abbots to govern as fathers, balancing justice with mercy, authority with humility. This resonates with the veteran ethos of placing mission and people before self. Leadership emerges from demonstrated character, from those who faithfully fulfill their duty stations and mentor others. He honors Claude Firth, the namesake for the first proposed veteran village in West Texas, as embodying this, placing duty before comfort and service before self-interest.
Leadership can't exist in isolation, though. It needs community, which is the focus of Chapter 7, Brotherhood and Belonging. How does the village address the profound wound of lost community for veterans?
Sullivan highlights that humans aren't meant to flourish in isolation. The loss of close community is a deep wound. Frankl observed that hope and meaning are sustained through love and responsibility to others, even in the darkest circumstances. The village sees community as fundamental to restoring purpose. Aristotle's idea of friendship grounded in virtue, built on mutual respect, shared values, and common purpose, is intentionally cultivated through shared work, meals, and mentorship. The military teaches trust through shared hardship, and the village continues this, rebuilding confidence through daily acts.
It sounds like a holistic approach to rebuilding human connection. And he uses religious texts here as well to emphasize interconnectedness.
He does. The Apostle Paul's comparison of healthy communities to a single body in 1 Corinthians 12, where every member is needed, is embraced. Benedict's rule on welcoming others and bearing burdens, and Tocqueville on citizens investing in institutions for the common good, all underscore that belonging grows where responsibility is shared. And importantly, this brotherhood isn't exclusive. It extends to families, volunteers, and the wider community, ensuring veterans and civilians serve alongside one another.
When bonds are restored, responsibility itself transforms, becoming a source of hope. That's the title of Chapter 8, Hope Through Responsibility. What does Sullivan mean by this seemingly counterintuitive idea?
He distinguishes hope from mere optimism. Hope, for Sullivan, grows strongest when individuals discover their lives still possess purpose, their decisions matter, and their efforts improve others' lives. Responsibility isn't hope's enemy, it's its source. He again cites Frankl, who saw that purpose beyond self enabled endurance. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus taught that peace and integrity come from fulfilling one's duty and accepting what's in one's control. The Apostle Paul in Romans 5 also links perseverance, character, and hope. This hope isn't detached, but produced through faithful endurance.
So, responsibility isn't a burden, but an affirmation of trust. How does the village embody this hopeful realism?
Exactly. Every duty station, every act of stewardship, every mentorship opportunity, and every task completed with excellence affirms the individual's capability for meaningful service. This replaces despair with confidence and isolation with belonging. Edmund Burke's idea of each generation accepting responsibility for past and future generations resonates here, as military service involves sacrifices for future generations. The village teaches that every day offers an opportunity to serve, grow, and strengthen the community. Hope becomes visible in these ordinary, faithfully repeated acts.
It sounds like this philosophy is meant to transcend any single location or generation, leading to Chapter 9, the Veteran Village Movement. What distinguishes a movement from just a successful program?
A movement, Sullivan argues, is founded on principles that inspire successive generations, unlike programs that meet immediate needs and then disappear. The true measure of the veteran village isn't one successful campus, but how many communities embrace and adapt its philosophy. He references Tocqueville's observation that free people achieve remarkable things when they voluntarily unite around shared convictions. Burke's idea of preserving wisdom and preparing future generations also underpins this movement. It must guard against becoming just an organization, where procedures trump people or programs eclipse purpose.
So, the principles remain constant, even if the methods adapt, and veterans themselves become the best ambassadors.
Yes. Frankl reminds us each generation must answer its own questions through action. The movement trusts that when veterans return to their homes and communities as leaders of character, their restored lives become the most persuasive testimony. No one individual or generation owns this movement. It's a stewardship of an idea, that those who bore the burdens of defense should continue to live lives of dignity, responsibility, fellowship, and service.
This all culminates in the covenant in Chapter 10. It's not a list of rules, but a declaration of principles. What are some of the key commitments outlined in this covenant?
The covenant affirms the enduring worth of every veteran and the belief that purpose is restored through meaningful responsibility, not passive dependence. It commits residents to stewardship of their talents and resources, honest work, faithful service, continual learning, and personal discipline. Leadership is by example. They commit to strengthening one another through brotherhood, mutual respect, encouragement, and accountability. It emphasizes welcoming partners like families, churches, and businesses.
And it seems to balance tradition with adaptability.
It does. They pledge to preserve the philosophy while allowing each community freedom to apply principles to local needs. Finally, it commits to honoring those who came before and preparing future generations, dedicating lives to courage, humility, integrity, compassion, stewardship, and faithful service, believing a veteran's mission continues throughout life. It's a charter for rediscovered purpose and honorable service.
Moving to the epilogue, the mission continues. Sullivan revisits the central diagnosis that the deepest challenge is loss of purpose. What does he mean when he says the work extends far beyond constructing buildings or administering programs?
He's reiterating that it's about recovering a philosophy of human dignity rooted in responsibility, stewardship, disciplined community, and meaningful service. He references Dietrich Bonhoeffer on authentic community, Rudolf Steiner on balanced development, and R. Buckminster Fuller on building better systems. He's looking for a constructive model, not just opposition to failing ones.
And he connects this back to the idea of moral injury, which is a growing area of understanding in veteran care.
Yes, he cites Jonathan Shea's work on Achilles in Vietnam and Odysseus in America, which showed moral injury arises from betrayal and that restoration involves rebuilding trust and character. He also mentions Brett Litz's adaptive disclosure model, emphasizing healing through restoring meaning, moral identity, and relationships, not just symptom reduction. He then shows how these insights are increasingly reflected in national policy from the VA and DoD regarding suicide prevention, depression management, and Army leadership doctrine.
So, the veteran village isn't replacing these established institutions, but complementing them.
Precisely. It creates communities where these principles become daily habits. Purpose through duty stations, stewardship through work, leadership by example, brotherhood through shared responsibility, and hope through lives that continue to matter. It's an invitation to participate in a movement, whether you're a veteran, family member, clinician, or neighbor. Sullivan concludes, quote, "May future generations judge us not by the number of facilities we built, but by the number of lives restored to meaningful citizenship." End quote. Certainly. Sullivan, also known as Mad Dog, was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and grew up in diverse cultures from West Texas to the Amazon and the Philippines. These experiences taught him the universal need for purpose, family, and belonging. He enlisted in the U.S. Army, serving in the 82nd Airborne Division, and like many Vietnam-era veterans, returned home disillusioned. He describes that period as one of outlawry and other colorful activities.
A truly unconventional path. What kind of work did he do over the years?
He's had a multifaceted career, including U.S. paratrooper, master tradesman, smuggler, Wild West character in Europe, and, for a season, a minister in Ireland. He's a lifelong horticulturalist, cook, entrepreneur, studied for a time at the Church of God Theological Seminary, and is a gray-beard biker storyteller. He's not an academic, but a man schooled in life, seen a lot of it, and lived to tell the tale. These diverse experiences and his first-hand knowledge of veterans struggling to reintegrate became the foundation for the Veteran Village philosophy. The book is offered as the Founder's Edition, a practical philosophy from one veteran who believes purpose, duty, stewardship, and community can restore lives.
This conversation has illuminated how James Howard Sullivan's The Veteran Village, a philosophy of reintegration, offers a powerful, human-centered approach to veteran reintegration. prioritizing purpose over mere provision. If this discussion has resonated with you, share this episode with someone who might benefit from this philosophy. One can find a Kindle version of the Veteran Village book on Amazon.